So I think we are live.
Yep.
Yeah, we are live. Okay, cool. Yo, everyone, welcome to the first, I don't have a name for that yet, so I guess the Kevin Rody Telly show. My first guest to the show is Matt Knowles and Steph Cannon. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having us.
Cool. Thank you for accepting the invitation, because I was just like last night, hey, I want some guests, and you said, yeah, let's do it. So, just to put you in context, Matt and Steph, if you want, you can like just plug your thing before we start. What's going on? What are you working on right now?
All right. So my name is Matt Knowles. One half of Insymmetry Creations with Steph Cannon. We just finished up our Kickstarter for Tales from Nocturnia. And when I say just finished it up, I mean just finished up ordering all the merch and everything that goes with a successful Kickstarter campaign. We expect to be sending out all of the packages and all the issues and whatnot probably within a couple of weeks based on the receipt of the stuff from the vendors. Right now, we're actually working on issue 11 of Heirs of Isildur, which is the completion of the story arc we're currently working on. We're also working on the trade version of that, which we're going to be doing a dual Kickstarter for the trade version of Heirs and issue 11 as a standalone, coming up a little bit later this summer. Myself and Steph and our artist Javi Lapara are knee deep in all those things. And I'll let Steph continue.
So we're going to be really busy with Kickstarter fulfillment, and if we're looking a little bit further out into the horizon, we have a title with Alterna Comics called The Accursed that we are co-writing together, and that will be out the first quarter of 2020.
Boom. And I love so much Alterna. I can't wait. I really love what they did with the newsprints and everything. Peter, as a way of saying the industry, that is really interesting. And we got a subject today that's pretty related with the Vertigo end and stuff like that. I think that it's a good way to rebound and talk about that, but not now, okay? With the present, what the show is. So basically, I will try to make that daily if I'm not too crazy with my idea of making this daily. The idea of the show is pretty simple. It's bring creators. It could be comic book creators. I got most of my contact are in comic book, but I want to bring filmmakers. I want to bring video game creators and every type of creators that we're going to talk about the industry and actually entertainment and what's going on, the big news and the big what's cool in the geekdom at the moment. And today, it's cool to have you part of this first episode. Matt and Steph, awesome people. Go check this out. Go check their stuff. They rock. They're fucking cool.
I hope so.
So, first topic of today, it's a subject that has been bring by Steph. What's the future of entertainment on the movie side and the series side? That now we got all these streaming services that they are coming up. We got Disney Plus, we got Apple Plus. I guess I think they're Plus as well, and Hulu that just been by Disney. We got the Netflix that are racing against time right now, trying to make as much as possible original series that people are going to stick to it and not go to the other streaming services. Because right now, if we look at it, we are coming back to the cable services in some way. That we will need to be on Netflix, we will need Hulu, we will need Amazon Prime, we will need Disney Plus. We're going back to the $100 per month dollars TV service in some way. So I guess the consumer going to have choice to make. So for you, right now, are you what services are you on right now?
I've got Netflix. We're pretty loyal Netflix watchers, and since we're Prime members, then we have Amazon Prime. But it's getting to the point now where I am watching just as much on Netflix, if not more, as far as series go, than I am just regular cable channels.
And you, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Netflix, watch Netflix a lot and have Amazon Prime. One show that I watch on HBO Go, which we'll talk about later in one of our other topics. But yeah, it's like I find with series that I'll end up DVRing them anyways and watching them at my convenience. Like there's very rarely a time when I'm watching DVR programs when they're live because I don't want to sit there through all the commercials. For me, the big thing about keeping normal cable is I'm a huge sports fan. And I'm not all about, let's go watch the football game, 4 hours later. I want to see it as it's happening because my fandom might affect the outcome of that football game. So, I got to watch that thing live. But yeah, I do find myself watching a lot more stuff, on demand truly. So it'll be interesting to see where the industry goes, because the more original content is happening outside of the normal networks and the normal cable networks, the less reliance there is on those.
Yeah, and something interesting that is happening with Netflix and their last production that they did. For example, I think it was Robot Love and something that it's just an amazing show with all with various animations, kind of Twilight Zone type. Every episode is a story, but since it's streaming and you don't have all the has of TV and all the running time that you need to have, there is episode of 15 minutes, there is episode of 7 minutes, there is episode of any long. So the story, you don't need, if a story can be told in 15 minutes, you don't need to put like 10 minutes more of things that are actually scrapping the episode in some way, because you need to fill that running time. So streaming services, I think, is the great middle ground between television and actually the internet, where you got still a budget because there is an investment by the consumer to watch a content. So I think that Netflix and all the streaming service bring something more to the table, even on the originality of the show. There is a lot of original show. We are creators, so that's a good thing for us, I guess, at some point, that there is original show coming out. It's not just like remake or stuff that are from big creators that have been around for 15 years. Now we got more original show because we are at a moment of war. It's really a moment of war that everyone want to have those EP out, and Disney is coming, Apple is coming. Apple just announced that they're gonna have Steven Spielberg and J.J. Abrams like sign exclusively for a couple of years or something like that. It's really crazy. All the wars is going, and we got Netflix. I don't know if you're aware of that. Netflix is right now $7 billion in debt because they have so much invested on the original content that their membership is not as high as all the actually invest in TV show. So Netflix is at a moment that is really interesting. There is even everyone was thinking that actually Apple, when they were going to announce that, okay, we are going to streaming services, that will be an announcement of, oh, we just bought Netflix. But no, Apple is going directly making their own content with A-list creators like Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, and various others that are gonna develop things for them. So Netflix right now in depth, and they're still running with their original content. And I think that Netflix is really strong. Their content is good, and they're making some great moves. And do you think that, for example, Disney, that they're going to go with the MCU stuff, that MCU is the biggest franchise right now in the world? Do you think it's gonna affect? Do you think that people gonna say, "Hey, I don't have the budget to have Disney and Netflix, and I'm gonna go just with Disney because they got all the Toy Stories, all the Star Wars, all the MCUs"? Do you think that's something that gonna makes people retire the Netflix abonnement?
I think definitely people who have kids and families are probably going to end up doing that, because if you've got Disney, then if there's, I think it depends on probably the demographic. I know for me, it's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to pay for both now. I see the merit in both because Netflix has the original content. But and I've seen that a lot where people are like, oh, it's going to be the end of Netflix, and it's like, well, no, not really, because Disney Plus may encompass a lot of stuff, and it's crazy when you look at the list of how much stuff they're going to have. But they still don't have that niche market with the original content that Netflix has. If you want to watch, Orange is the New Black, or any Sabrina, or any of these other things, you've got to have Netflix.
And if we go with the theaters, because at some point, I guess the theater, the big box office that's still going on, do you think that streaming service is going to affect, or just like, oh, the replacement of the TV? It's not changing anything. Like, is it just like, okay, this is the next cable type of situation, type of market, or it's really going to kill the theater market?
I think that you're going to always see every market still be out there. I mean, when you started to be able to stream stuff on your phone, everybody's like, well, that's going to be the end of TV. It's going to be the end of cable. But I can tell you right now, my cable bill is more than it's ever been, just because everything is lumped in, with your cable and your phone and things like that. It could all be in there. But I guess not phone, but I mean just cable and internet and whatnot. But I think you're just going to see people, survive and adapt. They're going to find different ways to be able to get people to want to stay with their service. Like what TV is nowadays is not what TV was 30 years ago. What cable is now is not what cable was when it first came out. When it first came out, everybody was paying $30 for their cable service, and everybody was super happy to have channels that went up through 73. You know, now if you don't get 250 channels on your cable, you're pissed off, and you don't have the ability to get, you know, NFL game day ticket and things like that. I mean, you're super pissed. So, you know, everybody's going to find ways to survive and adapt as it goes through. I believe it's just, you know, which ones are going to be the ones that are going to rise to the top.
Because personally, I don't have cable. Like, cable is off. Like, my parents got it, but for me, I don't need that. You know, I don't have time to watch the amount of content that TV proposed me, because I already got Netflix, I already got Amazon Prime, and all the YouTube stuff and everything that you can find online. So I don't want to invest $100 per month in cable for content I will not actually consume. You know. Even with video game and stuff like that, you already got enough entertainment that doesn't justify for me a $100. I don't know. I think that you're probably a bit older than me, Matt. So do you think that there is kind of a we talk about a generational? I guess that my generation, or the 20s, early 20s, I feel that cable is done for us. Do you think that at some point, because I know that the over 20s, my parents and everyone in 30s are still on the cable, but I mean, it's still the biggest market, I guess, at some point of entertainment, because people of my age, we're all fucking broke, you know. So we don't have the money to invest into that. But at some point, we are still one of the biggest demographic of consumer of entertainment and original content. I feel that my generation, we are really into the hipster thing at some point, that we want to find like the cool new thing, and we want to see original content. Like even MCU is like, you don't say to your friends that you're going to watch the next Iron Man, because it's like you're part of the mass, you believe in the mouse, you know. And we really love to discover a new thing. So I think that probably it's where streaming services win in some way, with original content like Netflix, that actually are the image comics of TV in some way, with what you're doing right now. So
I think that what Steph and I do in our own business within Sim is very similar to what the cable companies do with making sure their products are on multiple different platforms. And what I mean by that is, with what we do, we've got our, we always say we have 1 foot in the comic world, 1 foot in the steampunk world, and 1 foot in the music world, because we have a lot of different things that comprise what we do as in Sim. And if we only marketed to the comic crowd, we'd be leaving out a whole other demographic that likes our stuff. Music, same way. I've said this many times in interviews, which I still find it astounding, is that for the most part, recently, we've sold more of our extreme metal CD to senior citizens than to actual metal fans. The last couple of shows is the first time we've actually been selling a lot more of our metal CDs to actual metal fans. And the reason I say that is because we'll go into a show and we'll do a steampunk show, and the demographic for that is a much older, and people really like what we're doing, and they're like, hey, you know what? I want to buy your whole collection. And when somebody's 70 years old, I'll make sure I'm like, you do know this is an extreme metal CD over here? And they're like, yeah, I know. I don't care. I want to support you guys. So they want that collection. So just like we're doing, we know we have to appeal to multiple different demographics. I think the cable companies know, hey, right now, this year, we're going to have to make sure that we are still appealing to the senior citizens, to the baby boomers, to the Gen X's, to the millennials. 10 years from now, they may have less of a focus on traditional cable and maybe more of a focus on the streaming services. And then who knows where it's going to be 20 years from now. But I think right now, like you said, they have to kind of make sure that they have things that are going to appeal to the different demographics, so that way they're not, losing out on that revenue base.
And something interesting that you just said without the demography and stuff like that, I think that it's even bigger for theater right now, because moving people, it's something already to say to someone, hey, pay me $15 more if you take the popcorn and everything. You're already like, it's like buying an house, So if you go to the theater, you take your car, you leave home when you got hundreds and thousands of movies that you can just plug on your TV. Theaters, it's probably where where there is something I can change. I think that they will have no chance to actually bring an experience, a bigger experience. And this is not just for the theater. I think it's something on the studios as well. If they want to continue the box office market, because it's where the big money is at some point for big studios like Disney and Amazon and Warner Brothers and all those studios. And something interesting that someone, a big entrepreneur in Canada, said that someone owned a couple of theaters and stuff like that, said something interesting about the theater that I want to rebound with you on that. Someone was asking him in an interview, like, do you think that this is the end with Netflix of the theaters? And he did answer, do you have a kitchen at home? And the man said, yes. Do you go to the restaurant? And he said, yes, pretty much every day. Same thing for theater. But reflection on that, I got an arcade just behind. Like 20, 30 years ago, there was an arcade everywhere. But now everyone has this video game console at home. And arcade are dead right now. So do you think that streaming services could have a similar impact on theaters in the next years?
I know I never really thought that until Bird Box came out. And it was like this, it was talked about, and there was another big movie, and I can't remember what it was, but there was another big movie at the time that came, it was out in theaters at the time. And if you went on social media, that was all you saw.
Crazy.
It was insane how many people were talking about that movie. And there was a moment where it was like, we're starting to see now that Netflix movies are being included in the Oscars and that kind of thing. So I think they're being integrated more and more. I don't think one will replace the other, but I think what we're starting to see is that it is right up there with, popularity, with, the number of people that are tuning in. Let's face it, it's much easier to go to our TV and turn on Netflix and watch a brand new movie that could or could not be of the caliber that you go and see something in the theater, and then you're in the comfort of your own home and not spending $20 on popcorn. So
I think one of the big things that Marvel did with the whole MCU, and especially with Endgame and Infinity War, is it's hard to put a price tag on the experience. And I think that everybody knew that, hey, I got to get out to the theater and see Infinity War. I got to get out to the theater and see Endgame, because it's you and everybody else in the country that's going to see this thing at the same time on the giant screen. And you can say, hey, I watched it at my house, but it's different to be able to say, yeah, I was there at the theater on opening night or opening weekend, and, listening to the gasps of everybody. Or, I remember being in the theater for Infinity War and listening to the entire theater be completely dead silent. I mean, nobody said a word. Everybody was in absolute shock at the end of Infinity War. And you can't get that at your house. And I think that marketing the experience is where theaters are going to have the best chance of being able to survive in the growing market.
Cool. I just want to take 2 seconds to say hi to Alterna Comics. I guess it's Peter. Hi, Peter. And to Javi. Javi, thank you for watching. And Javi is saying, I barely watch cable TV, maybe the news at night, but for the rest, it's Netflix and Amazon Prime. So I guess it's pretty much the same for everyone. On both sides, you watch Netflix because they release a new original show that you want to watch. Same thing for cable television. If HBO, that it's kind of both streaming and cable TV. What I think they did, one of the greatest transition a company did in the last years with the HBO Go or something like that they call it. I'm not sure. Yeah, HBO Go, that they did a transition to kind of a streaming services for people that doesn't pay cable. Hey, no problem. You got an internet connection, you can watch our show. And this is something interesting that HBO did. Like, I'm so hyped for the Watchmen movie, for the Watchmen TV series. But I will be pissed if it was just cable. I will actually wait and probably get it online legally, because I had no other way to watch the show.
What you need to do is find somebody that has an HBO Go account and then just say, hey, can I come over every week and watch the show?
We've never experienced something like that, and we've never made that happen.
Oh, no, not at all. No,
never. Never.
By the way, that Javi that's on there, that is actually our artist. Like I said, the three of us are working on our issues. We actually paused what we were doing so that Steph and I could come onto this, and Javi actually paused what he was doing with the art for issue 11 to jump on and watch the show.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I remember, I'm sure you remember that. I remember that episode 3 of Star Wars, the first time I did watch it, I did buy like a DVD of someone that was filming the film like at the back seat of the theater, and it was so shitty. But I was like, oh my god, I'm watching it before everyone. And it was kind of in China, but streaming services, I feel that even something impressive of streaming services, they kind of have killed all the pirate, all illegal way to watch movies. I don't remember a friend that was saying like, hey, I was on Pirate Bay tonight and I watched a couple of movies. Everyone is like, I watch it on Netflix and paid for the movie. Actually, I think that streaming services kind of have not saved, but it's a big word, but actually kind of killed the piracy of entertainment in some way, or actually movies entertainment. For comic books is another thing. I know that there is a lot of piracy as well in comic book. But yeah, we actually killed that with Netflix. So that's.
Well, I think the same thing. I think the same thing happened, a while ago when it came to music. Everyone's like, oh, there's so much piracy out there. I mean, I remember going up on Napster and different streaming services, and pulling down albums. Nowadays, I buy more music than I ever have because it's so easy to get it, or listen to music. It's so easy to go up and listen to the streams on YouTube and find ways to do it legally. There's no need to pirate stuff. Why do you need to go pirate it when you can go on Spotify, or you can go on YouTube, or you can just go to Amazon and buy the thing? It's so easy nowadays that you really have to be looking and wanting to pirate something. You have to have that intent to go out there and deal with the piracy in music. So I think that the movie market and TV market that you said is kind of following suit.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's never been easier to pull up a song or even a movie. You can even watch movies on YouTube legally. I mean, I just think it's silly to try to go to these piracy sites. That you should never do that anyway, because there's a way to pay for it, and there are actual like sites now that will offer things for free. I mean, and we've got. I probably can't even say the name because then it would make noise in the background. But the Google, the little Amazon device that you can say the name and it'll play something for you. If I say her name right now, she's going to get excited. But you can say, play this song, and it'll literally play it right there. It's never been easier.
Yeah, something funny about the Google thing. Yesterday I did my first test, kind of weird episode alone on Twitch. It was a total failure because I was talking about the Stadia from the company starting with a G. And the new Stadia technology. And I was always repeating this word. And I was filming with my phone that is Google Pixel. So each time I was saying Google, it was like destroying the live. The video was crashing and stuff like that. So today I did buy a webcam just so I can show and be sure that, because Google is everywhere right now, so we're gonna always name drop that thing. So I just wanted to be sure that I don't get killed and stop the live again because of Google. But I think that, what do you think is something interesting, because we were talking about theater, and now going to theater need to be an event to bring people and can actually make the biggest number in the world because it's an event that everyone want to go. And what do you think is the next big event in theater? Because Avengers is kind of done, if you have seen the movie, we go on a reboot in some way. So what do you think is the next big thing on the schedule for the next years that are going to actually change the market? And everyone in the chat, you can answer as well. We're going to check your question.
Man, that's a tough one, because I feel like right now there's going to be a little bit of a lull, because you've had things like, Fantastic Beasts was big, and obviously everything with Marvel. And then before that, you had when Harry Potter was out and Lord of the Rings, those were big epic stories. I mean, maybe there's a little room for DC to come in with psychedelic 80s Wonder Woman. Who really knows? But I'm saying that might be the first thing that's on my mind that could be the next big one, but it's kind of hard to say.
Let's not forget there's this little space opera called Star Wars coming out later this year. So, there's that.
Do you think that the franchise suffered from a number 8 that has been not really loved by fan and no one is excited? Or do you think that because number 8 was that is actually going to bring more person by curiosity of what they did, actually, all they did save or all they did complete the trilogy?
People love to complain. There's always going to be there's always going to be somebody that's not going to like it. I mean, that we say that in content creation too. No matter what you do, Somebody's not gonna like it, and then but for every person that doesn't like it, there's like 10 more that are gonna. So of course it's gonna be there's never going to be a Star Wars movie that comes out in the theater that is going to flop. I mean, there have been some that haven't been as successful.
Solo,
but Solo was still, if you compare it to basically any other movie that came out that month, it was still did well. I mean, it's flopped for Star Wars standards, but would be a dream for probably a lot of filmmakers out there to make that much money on a movie. So, there's always going to be success with those. There's always going to be big things, but I'm kind of curious to see the direction that the MCU is going to go now. I say never, as far as there were so many times that I'd hear about a movie coming out. I'm like, I don't know about Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't think I'll like that. And I loved it. So I say, you know what? I'm never going to write anything off. Anything is possible with that.
Yeah, and I remember when I did quit the theater with my friend when we did see first day Endgame. I'm not a big fan of the MCU, but first of all, I'm just like following the Avengers and Iron Man I find cool, but and Thor Ragnarok for me was a really good movie. But the rest, I'm not really a superhero guy. It's weird for someone to make comics, but I'm not really into superheroes. But when I did finish Endgame and all the characters that we know that die and stuff like that, I was like, oh, there is just sidekick laugh. So it's really interesting to know where they're going to go with all that. And honestly, it's the reason why I want to see Kevin Feige have fun with that and all the MCU. And personally, to rebound or just answer my own question, because I'm a selfish man and I want to say what I think that's going to be the next big thing in theater. I do believe that James Cameron going to make a comeback as you fuck with my Titanic. And maybe Avatar going to be pulled off of number one by Endgame. It's really short right now. I'm pretty sure that James Cameron right now he is working on a new way to actually on Avatar 2, because it's official now. It's going to be 2021. It's going to be released. I do think that James Cameron is right now working on a new technology that's going to blow everyone away, and everyone will be so excited. It's going to be the big event. We're going to go in theater because of that. Like the first one, the first Avatar, everyone to go see and rewatch the Avatar because the 3D was so crazy back then. And still, when you watch Avatar, it's still the best 3D experience that we can get on a Blu-ray. And I do think that two things that James Cameron can do to actually break, for the first time in history, the 3 billion mark at the box office. One, Avatar 2 going to be a VR experience that everyone going to experience in their seat. Now we got VR Google for $20. Like, if you want to sell, I don't know, the ticket's $30, and you go with your VR, and everyone will be pumped, because the main... my mother never experienced the VR, and a lot of people, even if you're not a gamer, you never touch a VR. You don't know what it is to experience VR. You know what it is because now it's really mainstream, the VR culture and all the games coming up and stuff like that. But if you're not a gamer, you never touch a VR. Even a gamer, it's pretty expensive in some way to play Oculus Rift and stuff like that. So if James Cameron come with, hey, wait a minute, my film is the first major theatrical release in VR, I know people that are going to go see 4 or 5 times the movie just to, wow, this is a blast, this is amazing, because they'd never experienced that, and this is their first connection with a VR. Second option that James Cameron can do with a 3D, imagine first 3D film without glasses. You go in the theater and you see in 3D the movie. I don't know how you could do that, but I bet more on the VR aspect. But imagine having a 3D experience in theater without glasses. And that's my bet of the first film that's going to make 3 billion at the box office. And the next big thing in theater going to be Avatar 2. I know no one believes. Everyone's saying, it's too late for Avatar. It's done. No one want to see that. But, hey, wait a minute. If James Cameron come and say, hey, my Avatar going to be a VR experience in theater, every fucking one going to go see that first night.
Yeah, I mean, VR is pretty, like you said, it's getting easier and easier to get a VR glasses of some type. So I think it's probably only a matter of time before some type of movies. I don't know if it'll be James Cameron or not, but I mean, who knows? If there's anybody that can do it, it might be him. So yeah, you never know.
I want it to happen so bad. I'm like, I want to watch this clip in 2 years and say, yeah, I was right.
Well, let's remember, Back to the Future basically showed us 3D without glasses, which was like the marquee for Jaws. That's like true. 25 or whatever it was, with the shark coming out and him. So,
So yeah, I think that's gonna be the next big event. But I guess that we're gonna have like an Avenger 5, or we're gonna have other thing from the MCU, DCU. That I'm really interested by the Batman and the Joker and stuff like that. I don't think the Joker gonna be $1 billion film. Maybe. But I think that the next 2-3 billions films, it's probably Avatar for me. I don't think that Star Wars can beat 2 billions. It's gonna be the 1.8, something like that at top, but we'll never do the 2 billions. I don't think the circumstances that where Star Wars is, but I do think that maybe the next big space opera is Dune. I do think that Dune can actually be the big surprise with a talent like Denis Villeneuve behind, the cast that he has, if he doesn't go into what he did with Blade Runner. But Blade Runner is different kind of franchise, but going
Yeah, that's what I was
something
too. Yeah.
Yeah, if we go in something that is really more mainstream and accessible, I do think that it could be the next Star Wars. Like Dune has everything to be the next big sci-fi franchise with this mix of Star Wars and Game of Thrones that everyone will love if it's well done, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Blade Runner was, it's a beautifulally shot movie, and it's got that. There's always going to be people that are going to. I mean, sci-fi is a huge market, so you're always gonna. There's. I always say with that, there's always room for more.
Oh yeah, and Blade Runner 2049, nothing versus that film, is probably my favorite film of all time. I think that everything is in that.
It's a pretty movie, that's for sure.
I remember when I did finish the film, I was in my car, just at the exit of the theater, and I've been crying like for 30 minutes. I don't know why. I was like, oh my God, what was that? This was a crazy experience for me. And Denis Villeneuve is one. And there was kind of, I don't know, reconnaissance, or I was just looking at that film because Denis Villeneuve is from my hometown in Quebec, the French part of Canada. So I was like, oh man, a kid from that town made it to Hollywood and probably made the best sci-fi film of all time with if we consider the advancement in technology and stuff like that. That 2001 is not there, obviously, with all the technology that we have today. So Matt and you, I think you watched a new show that has been buzzing around, Chernobyl. I did not watch it. I've heard really good things. I don't even know what it is about. Is it like an historic type of thing, or more a zombie thing like they did with a movie like 2-3 years ago?
So cool. Chernobyl, I've always been fascinated by Chernobyl, and Chernobyl is basically the most, I would say, exhaustive historic retelling of what actually happened in 1986 when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Ukraine actually had the meltdown. And when you hear it from that perspective, you're like, oh man, is this going to be a documentary? It absolutely is not a documentary in any way. It is a very well put together dramatic show that, I mean, I'm amazed, and it's actually good. I mean, they talk that this show is getting the highest ratings of any show on HBO, period. Every single site that has any kind of reviews has it like a minimum of 90% critics review and fan review. It's really, really good. It's only 5 episodes because it does follow the actual happenings that happened in 1986 with the Chernobyl meltdown. But it actually starts off with the scientists inside the building when the nuclear reactor actually explodes. And it shows how all the things that happened in there, how it affected people at a personal level. And that's what makes the show really, really good, is because you literally are following scientists that were in the building trying to deal with the fact that they just had a nuclear reactor explode. Firemen that were the first people called to the site that were trying to put a fire out, not realizing that, they literally were picking up, radioactive nuclear material that was outside the building, and looking at all the effects, looking at the effects on Pripyat, the town that was right there by the reactor that still to this day is part of the exclusion zone, that you can't even go and live there. I mean, it's off limits. You can go and take a tour every once in a while, but you're not even allowed to go and live there. That's how much effect that it had back in the day.
That's so great. Does the show have some part of documentary, or is it really just like it's always the actors, or do they go back in documentary style, or it's just like actors and we follow stories of people that has been around at the time?
The only part, without there being any kind of spoiler, but the only part, and Steph and I just finished watching it the other day, that was really good was at the very end of the last episode. They do pull out some archival footage of some of the people, the real people that the characters are based on. The characters in the show, other than one or two, are actually based on real people. Like they're using their real names, their actual real storylines. Obviously, that's been dramatized just a little bit, but they do go back to some of that original footage, and you do get to see, hey, here's the character this guy was based on. Here's the character this person was based on. I think at the very beginning, they do have some news footage from the USA that was used, like when it actually happened. But most of it is, dramatically done. So if you didn't know that this was a real event that happened in 1986, you could watch and be like, holy crap, this is an amazingly put together drama series.
Wow, I need to watch that.
Yeah.
I'm really into historical stuff. Like, I don't know if you have watched this show that was released probably like even more than that, but Bands of Brothers, that was like produced by Steven Spielberg or something like that. That was so great. Is it in the same style of direction that they did for that show? Like with actors, and at the end or at the beginning, they were like kind of people talking, or?
Yeah, it's all actors. But it's most of it is. I mean, I would say it is a very, very accurate depiction of what happened, and it goes into a lot of detail. That, I mean, people hear a meltdown on a nuclear plant. There's an immediate picture that comes to mind about what happens, and of course everybody thinks, okay, obviously people that got exposed to radiation. There were those that died pretty much right away, and then those that had the after effects that lasted years later, that they ended up with cancer 10 years later, 5 years later. So that's always, that's obviously covered in it, but it goes into a little bit more detail about the things that these people had to do. The firefighters, the miners that they had to bring into, there was just so much that needed to happen. And, I don't want to get into a lot of spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but there are just some heartbreaking things that these workers and people involved in it had to do in order to try to contain this and the effects on them. But yeah, it's all acted out, but you're riveted and you have to remember, it's like, oh my gosh, this actually happened to people. This was horrible.
Yeah. Chernobyl was actually, in world historical terms, there's one line in the show that is actually pretty much tells you all that you need to know. Two of the guys are talking, and one guy says, this is the most dangerous place on the planet Earth. And that is the absolute truth. Being in the United States, and when it happened, I was younger. When it happened, that was back when it was, the Cold War, Eastern Bloc. There wasn't a lot of information coming out of Russia. Being able to, you heard a bunch of rumors about, you heard that the liquidators, which is what they call a lot of the cleanup people, the liquidators had to go through this, they had to go through that. But seeing that actually acted out in the show and being like, holy crap, these were real people that were literally like, hey, you have 90 seconds to go over there and remove some radioactive debris. You have to be back within 90 seconds or you're going to get radioactive poisoning.
Wow.
That's literally like the stuff that happened during this time. It's insane to think that some of the things that happened during that actually happened, but it's also amazing to realize that if these people didn't do what they did, we literally would not be living in the society that we live in today. Literally the entire continent of Europe could have had, nuclear fallout, and it could have completely changed everything we know of as the 7 continents of the U.S. from one nuclear reactor in Russia. And that's not grandstanding or exaggeration, but that one nuclear reactor could have completely changed the entire face of the planet as we know it because of the one mishap that happened there.
Wow. I'm sold. The show, I gotta watch that for sure. Is it more is it an anthology, or more like we always follow like the same survivors episode after episode, or we follow like politician? Is it more like on the ground, or we also see some politician dealing with the situation and stuff like that?
I would say the answer to that question is yes, because you do follow a bunch of characters.
Okay, cool.
And without getting into the details of the story, The first episode starts off with an event, and they decided to start off the series with that event that happens to one specific character, because they wanted to be able to show, hey, look, this story isn't about just this one guy. Even though we follow this guy as one of the main characters, this is not just about him. It's about all the people. I mean, you do see some, you get to follow some of the scientists that were there. You follow a firefighter, you follow his wife. You even get to see Mikhail Gorbachev in there from time to time as the prime minister of the Soviet Union at the time. So they do a good job of showing you its effects across so many different walks of life, while still keeping a coherent story. So it's not like Vikings in a sense, where Vikings, even though you're following Ragnar, Vikings is so all over the place that now you're like, not even, you're so far past Ragnar even being alive that you're like, there's not even barely any original characters left. In that story, you do have some characters, like, that you're going to be following this person and that person, but it's so much more than just that.
Interesting. So out of 10 nukes, how much you give on 10 to the show?
I'd say it gets 10 nukes. It's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I would say it's probably the best put together show I've seen in a while. If it's not going to get a 10, I'd give it a 9.9, just because there's always room to improve.
Wow. How many episodes is it?
It's only 5.
Oh wow! So mini-series, they did like
mini-series,
well paced and everything. We put all the budget on 5 episodes. So oh man, it's always good when a TV series, less episode of TV series is normally it's still a lot on the quality of the show. It's not a CW show with 22 episodes and there is like 5 good episodes on it.
Isn't it funny how that seems so daunting now to watch? That used to be what we did all the time. I mean, I remember, early, that's how TV always was. It was 24 episodes, and now that's like 24. I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah. How many filler episodes are going to be in here? How many episodes are going to not really make any difference to the overall storyline because they're just trying to stretch it out for budget purposes?
And as writer, we understand, like, how could you make 22 good episode of something? Like, at some point, if your story is like, I got a really good storyline, but I only need like 10 episodes. But the TV channel is like, no, it's 22. Like, you got to put some shit between your good stuff.
Yes. That's
talking of shitty situation, shitty things. We got like the rumor yesterday, or not even the rumor. I think it's pretty much official. I don't know, but that Vertigo is it's the end of Vertigo, one of the biggest. It's DC in print, but one of the biggest thing in the history of indie comics in some way, which did bring the Sandman stories, that did bring Lucifer, and pretty much like started what an indie. It started actually more than Image Comics enough, if I'm not wrong, like decision and direction they did, because at the beginning Image Comics was another superhero place, and when Vertigo did come with all their more indie type of original EPs, Image did make a switch. I'm probably totally wrong with that, but I think that Vertigo is probably one of the most important phase of indie comics. What do you think that the possible end of Vertigo at DC Comics mean in the industry, and what does it mean for us as creators and indies, or what does it mean for the industry?
Well, I mean, we're definitely losing a lot of titles. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think they've come out with a lot of details on exactly what they're doing with, all of that. It's kind of, it's a big thing because, and we're kind of seeing that more and more in indie comics too, where, comics are going. I just heard today that the comic section of Paste magazine is being done with. So it's, I think that we're seeing this more and more, where there's indie comic companies that are folding or merging with others. I mean, there's been a lot of things like that in the news lately. And so I can't say that it's necessarily a surprise that it was Vertigo, given just some of the things that have happened with DC over the past few years and Vertigo. But it's always surprising to hear such a even though it was an imprint, it was a major imprint. It was a major imprint that had a lot of success, and they just rebranded it last year. That, I think, to me is the biggest surprise, is that it's like, and you just did this whole rebranding in 2018, and now it's folding. So it was a little bit of a surprise with that.
Well, I could say I'm never going to hate on Marvel or DC because they do so much. I mean, we wouldn't have MCU, we wouldn't have big blockbuster movies without Marvel and DC. but I think that there's a lot of romanticizing that happens with having a Marvel title or having a DC title. We are in the golden age of indie comics right now. You know, I mean, good grief, Ryan Kincaid just launched a Kickstarter on Friday night, and before you could sneeze, he had $15,000 on the Kickstarter as an independent artist. He didn't need Marvel or DC to do that. He did that on his own. You got people like Brian Pulido with Lady Death that's doing, you know, $300,000 per Kickstarter. He's doing that on his own. We're in the golden age of that, where people don't need Marvel and DC to be able to go out and find good entertainment. And I think that if this question was asked 10 or 15 years ago, and this was what was happening, I think that it would have a lot bigger impact on the industry than what it will now. Because I feel like, especially when you get past that top level, that pop culture level, and you're one level down to where the top independents are, I think that it's just going to leave a lot more room for, you know, the new wave of where indies are.
Do you think that this is a reflection I had on that? Do you think that now that DC is owned by Warner Brothers and they got like trying to pull up the DCU and fit into the mold of what Marvel is doing in some way, do you think that actually the brand of Vertigo was not corporate enough to actually fit in their next decision in the next years of what they are doing? Because personally, as a reader, I don't even remember what did excite me in the last years at Vertigo and stuff like that. There was the second comics that I was like, oh my God, I'm going to buy a Vertigo comics. And they canceled it because it was not reflecting what DC and Warner Brothers wanted to do. And now they're published by another company because they've been pulled off because it was like the second coming of God or something like that. So they got a controversy with that and they canceled the title. Because the last thing, honestly, that I remember I did buy, I think was like a year ago when they did like a prequel to Sandman or something like that. But Sandman is like something that been around since the 90s or even the 80s, I think. So I don't remember a new thing from Vertigo that was like, wow, I want to jump on that, because Vertigo was known to make some like dark and gritty and interesting stuff that you don't find anywhere else. They had like really, really interesting universe that was forged back in the day. So do you think that it's actually fit with the decision of, oh, we are now Warner Brothers and we're now pushing DC as a superhero place? I think
you probably hit the nail on the head, because I'm really big against. I mean, we all need corporations. I mean, there's big corporations out there. We spent the first part of this conversation talking about huge corporate conglomerates, but I think that when corporations start worrying about, you know, how can we put 25 more cents in the stockholders' pockets, that's when problems come. And in a situation like this, we have a friend that's actually on the con scene with us. It used to be an editor at Marvel. I will leave his name out, but he used to be editor at Marvel back in the day. And he said that the industry for him started to change when it went from, you know, is it a good story, whether or not they're going to take a title or not, to can we make money off of it? And is it a good story, if that's not even a part of the equation, I think that's when you're going to start seeing there be problems. Because right now, there are so many good stories out there. You don't need to go to Marvel and you don't need to go to DC to get a good story. If they're not putting something out that is a good story, people are going to find it elsewhere. Kickstarter right now is in the top 2 or 3 as far as places where people are going to actually spend their money to go and purchase comics. They are not going there to purchase Marvel and DC. They are going there to purchase good indie stories. So I think that it's going to be that, like I said, the impact is going to be much less, because it's so less corporate. There's so much more stuff out there that's not corporate now. People don't want corporate titles. You know, I'm not saying nobody does, because we have the MCU, but people don't want corporate titles. They want good stories.
Yeah, totally. And if in something interesting that you just said with Kickstarter and everything, but not just with Kickstarter, it's because all company like that, or not all company, but big companies, don't take really the time to go to small events, don't take the time to go online and make shows like that, for example, that you really connect with readers and with people, because they're a company and not individual stuff. But for example, you got Alternate Comics, Source Point Press, and medium publishers like that. They're actually making the same or bigger numbers than some series that Image Comics, for example, because they actually goes to con, they actually interact with people online, because now we are at an age with the internet, and I think that's a lot due to Instagram blow up with all the influencers and stuff like that. Now the consumer follow person more than corporate and companies, because you relate and you actually more interested in a person. It's normal. Yeah, you're a human. Fuck. You don't want to. You don't want to go with corporate and stuff like that, the big monster, the big mouse, you know. So when you see someone like Peter, for example, I don't know if he's still here, but like someone like Peter that is interacting online, talking to his fan every day and stuff like that, it's kind of your friend. So you want to support him and you want to bring something more on the table. And as a consumer, you want to be proud and say, yeah, I'm part of the alternate team. I'm part of the Suspend Press. I'm part of Scott Comics and etc. So those company now, since the market has changed, are kind of dominating, I guess, in some way. Even as a creator, for me, like I was thinking of my title, I was like, oh, do I submit to, am I more interested in medium press like that and make all the cons and make all the shows and stuff like that, and going with Image Comics, for example, if I'm pick up. And I was like, damn, now, like 5 years ago, I would be like, Image all in, just for I'm an image creator. Now I'm like, oh man, I would probably go with a guy with Peter, even if I get like the contract with Image, just because I'm getting bigger than if I go with Image now. Like it's the market's totally changing with the internet.
Well, I think one of the keys is being someone that comes from the music world. There's a lot of discussion that happens about what success is. Is it being on tour? Is it making money? Is it having likes on Facebook? I think that same thing happens here, is the same kind of idea you can add into this as well. Just because one person's definition of success is A, doesn't mean that has to be your version of success. Somebody could be a Marvel or DC writer and be completely broken in debt and lose their house and lose their car. But, hey, they're a Marvel writer. It's great. I mean, there could be people that are a Marvel and DC making millions, but you could be an indie creator, do it full time. We have a couple of friends that do Kickstarters as their full-time job, that make a decent enough living. That's their job. Are they ever going to get, top billing at a con for being the top end guest? No. You know what? They've only got a few hundred people that are following them on social media, but you know what? They're making money hand over fist on Kickstarter. To me, that's a great success. Whether you're with Alterna or you're with Image or you're doing stuff on your own on Kickstarter or some combination of it all, as long as you have some kind of success, don't worry about what somebody else's definition is.
There you go. And go ahead, Steph.
I agree absolutely, and I think too. I mean, obviously, as indie creators, we're all free indie creators, so we are obviously going to say, and Matt said it. We are in the golden age of indie comics, and I truly believe that we are. Of course, we are going to say, and I think that even in indie comics, the measure of success that you have could be. I mean, we know people that are perfectly happy self-publishing their titles and going to a few cons per year, and that's it. And who's to say that is not successful for them? I like now that we're getting away from this. The ultimate goal is to be with one of the big two. It has to be the big two. And if not the big two, then at least Image. That's always is like the next. That's what everybody always says. And I mean that's great. And we have friends that are with the big two, and I see them just as successful as we are in terms of, that we're not talking dollars or anything like that. But as far as, being able to live the dream, I mean, aren't we so lucky to be able to do this? That's the ultimate thing.
Yeah. And something I was talking about with a friend that's pretty similar, that was actually saying, not a comic book creator, just someone like with a normal life, that was saying to me like, oh yeah, being successful as a comic book creator or someone who creates stuff is like being with Disney, being with Warner and stuff like that. I was like, oh no, man. I was like, why do you do your job? What is the definition of the success in your job? And he said, oh, pay the rent, bring food on the table for my kids. I was like, same fucking thing for us, like if you don't need a company over, you don't need a big name, you don't need like 10,000 reader and more. Of course, it's really rad. Come, but I mean. Yeah. You don't need that. You just need to have enough money to be like, okay, I can live from what I love. This is the definition of happiness, and there is even like big statistic on that. Like, people you go over $100,000 per year, there is more chance that you're unhappy than someone at $60,000 or something like that. It's proven that over money is not good. It's not good actually, because you go in zone that it's not your comfort zone. You came with people around that are not people you will be around if you don't have this money, and etc. So the definition of success is just live from what you love.
And that's what we all want. It's exactly what our mentality is. We bust our butts every day. I'm not gonna sit here and say that, you know, we're the hardest working people out there, because I think it's pretty presumptuous to ever say that. But I want to see people that work harder than we do. I mean, I feel like we work at the same level as if there's a group of people that say, hey, we work really hard. I know that Steph and I do the exact same thing. I know Javi does the same thing. We all work our butts off to try and get to where we want to be. And, you know, we want to be able to realize exactly what you're saying. You know, we want to be able to live off of this. We want to be able to do this stuff full time in a way that is going to be actually able to, you know, pay the rent, put the food on the table, and pay for the shows and pay for the tables and all that. So we can go out there and be amongst the people, be amongst the fans.
There you go. Where are you based?
I'm in Florida right now.
Okay, cool.
I'm in California right now, so we're doing the bi-coastal thing for now.
Oh, yeah. But I've changed. I just wanted to
stay here. Yeah. I'm going to stay here. Steph was going to be in Florida here sooner than later, but
that's cool. No, I just wanted to know if we're going to meet at cons or something like that, because I will probably go. It's funny because I will probably do a con in Florida next year, and California as well, because my artist and best friend, one of my best friends, and I hate to say best friend, live in Sacramento, so we plan to do probably the Wizard World of Sacramento or something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe Silicon Valley as well. So and we'll go down. He got like his wedding and everything, so we're gonna do both at the same time. So where are you in California?
I'm in Central California, so I'm about midway through the state. 3 hours from San Francisco, 3 hours from LA.
Okay, not bad. Not bad. You can do both. So that's great.
2 hours from Sacramento.
That's cool. So I think we are done for this first episode of the show. That was cool. Thank you for being with us, guys. It was amazing. And Gail, I always say guys, like French. In French, we say dude to everyone, like an expression.
That's right. That's right. That's same in Florida.
Okay, we're from Florida and California. Everything and everyone is a dude.
Okay, cool. So thank you, dudes, for being on the show. And do you have anything that you want to plug before I unplug the show?
Hey, I just want to say thanks for having us on your very first show. I hope to see this thing become really big and way bigger than what it is right now. But you know what? No matter how big it comes, Steph and I always can say we were your first.
We were your first.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Just just hope that everybody will give a chance to Tales from Nocturnia. It's our medieval fantasy title. We are going to have the physical copies and all the stuff out for it. We're going to start putting it out probably the end of June, beginning of July. We'll actually start having it out there. Please check out the social media that Kevin is going to drop at the bottom of this interview. And definitely keep your eyes out for Heirs of Isildur. It's our steampunk time travel series. We'll just say it's time travel in reverse. Come check out our social media to understand what that means. We're working on the final issue of the current story arc, which is actually 11 issues in, the Crossroads Conundrum. We are going to have a Kickstarter for issue 11 and for the trade version of that, which we expect to be between 250 and 280 pages, coming out, over the summer. We're going to have some new music. We're going to have The Accursed, which is going to be on Alterna that we're working hot and heavy on right now, so we can have those issues coming out at the beginning of 2020. Just make sure you go check out InSim and look at all the things we have going on.
And if you're in Central Florida, we have 2 shows coming up this month. We are going to be at Ocala Comic-Con on the 22nd and 23rd of this month. And on the 29th and 30th, we're going to be at Aethertopia, which is a steampunk convention in Tampa. And Matt is actually going to be MC at that. And you are, you should just go just to experience him being an MC. So.
Yeah, if you've never been to a full-on steampunk festival, Aethertopia is where you want to go. It's a fun festival. It's one of those things how we talked about success. It's not about having 200,000 people at the event. It's a smaller show, but the thing is, it's all people into steampunk. They try to make it an experience where you feel like you're kind of in like a dystopian kind of Victorian village. Abney Park, who's the biggest steampunk band in the world, is actually going to be there playing a show. They're from Seattle. So it's going to be a fun experience. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. So as you said, we're going from a pop culture Comic-Con to a steampunk event, and we want to just always keep our feet in the different worlds because it just makes life more fun.
That's the way to go. So thank you, dudes.
Thank you.
And so all the links for Steph and Matt are in the description below, and my links as well. So grab our book, connect on social media, and of course, thank you for watching this first episode. I see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. It's gonna be Chuck Pino and
Yes.
Travis Gibbs.
Yay!
Yeah,
on the
that's
show.
our boys,
So,
Chuck and
oh my
Travis. You're gonna have fun
Hell
with those
yeah.
guys. You're gonna have
You're
fun
gonna
with
have
them.
fun with
They
them.
are freaking amazing.
Hell yeah!
We'll watch.
So
We'll be watching.
that's a good reason. So you got everyone. You just saw that. Like everyone is excited. So the dudes are excited. You are excited. So see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. East with those freaking awesome guys.
That's right.
Bye
Thanks
bye.
a lot. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.